All right, so we're at 4 o'clock here Central Time. Thank you to those of you joining us here online. We have Stacy Deere-Strole from Focal Point Solutions today with Doing It Right the SharePoint Way. I'll go ahead and hand it over to her.
All right, well, thank you everybody for joining. I hope you guys don't have some of the nasty rain that we're getting. Thank you guys for joining, and I hope you enjoy the session. At any time, if you have any questions, feel free to type them in, and Nate said that he would check those out for us, and so make sure they get answered for you. And then, of course, I'm always available later on email or Twitter, whatever, if you have any follow-up questions. So tonight we're going to talk about doing it right the SharePoint way. I really like this this topic and this session altogether because you know, not often can you compare something to Star Wars, and SharePoint's just one of those things that it was an easy thing to do. So it probably also shows my geek side, but it's a lot of fun, right? So not so long ago in a galaxy far, far away, I had to do the whole Star Wars kind of fun thing. I normally have the music to this, but it was being a little loud with doing the remote, so I kind of cut that out so you can just imagine the normal Star Wars theme. But anyways, as Nate said, my name is Stacy Deere-Strole. I am a Microsoft SharePoint MVP. I'm also the founder and CEO of a company called Focal Point Solutions, based out of Cincinnati, Ohio. But we essentially have users all over and clients all over the world. And we essentially just focus on SharePoint and Office 365. My contact information is out here for you. At any time, you guys are free to reach out. Anything that I go through in any of my sessions, as you're trying to go down that path, or you have questions, or you run into an error, don't hesitate to reach out. Be more than glad to answer your questions. I always kind of use the joke, I'm not a lawyer, so I don't charge you, and you know, I don't charge you for 5, 10, 15-minute type of stuff and questions, but I'll be more than glad to help you out. I do have a personal blog, SP Mindmelt, at focalpointsolutions.co. I try to blog a lot of, I'm a solutions architect by trade, so I do a lot of administration, how to solve problems, come up with alternative, things to development and whatnot. So I try to post a lot of stuff out there, so feel free to check that out. And then also myself and others within the organization do postings on the company website, which are more than happy to check those out as well. And last but not least, I am an author for 2 books on SharePoint Managed Metadata. Notice there's not 2016 because nothing really changed, but I am slated to work on the, or get the 2019/Office 365 version out, hopefully sometime this year. We're still working out some logistic stuff for that, so stay tuned. So tonight we're going to talk about where to start into planning of a SharePoint implementation, migration, etc. You want to be successful, or do you want to waste time and end up, having an unsuccessful project? We're going to make sure that you guys are successful. It all starts out with planning, and you've got, in the beginning type of planning, you've got in the middle type of planning, and then you always have the end planning as well. If you haven't guessed it, planning is something that is continual. It never ends because honestly, SharePoint projects never end. One project breeds another one. We're going to talk about marketing, some quick wins, user adoption, and last but not least, governance. I know that's everybody's favorite topic. So what we will cover. So first question, what do SharePoint and Star Wars have in common? They both start in the middle. If anybody's been in SharePoint for a long period of time, one of the big things is everybody kind of first alluded to SharePoint as the same as installing, Word, Excel, Outlook, or whatever, just hitting next, 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 and it's up and running. Yes, that option is available in SharePoint Online. However, in on-prem and online, you set up your tenant and then it's up, but that doesn't really mean it's done or the best way to do it. On-prem, by doing that, you're essentially building what I consider a dev environment, something that is short-term, because There's naming schemes, there's database things you have to take in consideration, what you're going to configure, and all the default stuff essentially builds everything, which then takes away from the resources and stuff of what you really want to focus in. And this has been done for years in the SharePoint world. So with having to clean up so many of those types of things and walking organizations through essentially starting over with a new environment that's configured the same way, is to start helping people what is the best way to do it. And with SharePoint, that first step is just taking a big old step backwards and start planning it. And that all starts with, what is your organization what are they going to use SharePoint for? What kind of goals are you trying to accomplish? So I kind of joke, now we know who did, kind of did all this. Yoda, we always found him as a master, but, he is the one that, they say he drove the 4, 5, 6 before the 1, 2, 3. Now notice it works for Star Wars, but it doesn't quite work for SharePoint. So Star Wars is unique. You can always start in the middle and come to the end. I know I can't see a show of hands, but how many people watch Star Wars episodes 1 through 6 in order? Do we have anybody that does that? So by trade, if you're a true geek, the 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3 is the way to go. So like I said, only in SharePoint does that really work, or would I suggest in doing so? As I mentioned, when it comes to SharePoint, essentially what has happened through the years is, you would install the prereqs, you can install SharePoint, accept all the defaults, set it up all pretty much automatic, just next, next, next. People would create one web application, one site collection, and then you would have a bunch of subsites underneath, and then, boom, done, and they threw it into production. Did it work? Absolutely. Was it efficient? Was it by best practice and all of that? Absolutely not. And, Nate and anybody else who's been in the SharePoint world can tell you, now Microsoft is literally forcing everybody to move away from the subsite architecture to the flat architecture just because of where things are going in the future. The subsite is more of something that's going to be a rarity instead of the norm that people have been used to in 2007, 2010, and even into 2013. So if you're in one of those type of scenarios, I would start planning now to try to get your architecture as flat as possible. But these are things that have to be discussed in the beginning of a project, because if it comes to the end of the project, this is an area that essentially forces you to essentially have to restart over and can cost a lot of time and of course money. All right, so notice there are no pros to starting in the middle for SharePoint. Star Wars is just a pro all the time. So I have a few corny jokes for you. The first one, what do you call a single server SharePoint farm? In my world, I call it solo, right? Anybody laugh? Nate, you can hear people laugh, right? They're laughing out loud. All right. So in a dark place we find ourselves, and a little more knowledge lights our way. What this means is just because we've went down that rabbit hole doesn't mean we can't come out of it. But there are things you have to do to come out of that rabbit hole and make things much, much better. Now, where to start in, either if you're in the beginning or you've already done it and you have to redo it, all of these things still apply. So the first thing you want to do is always assess what your situation is. And this means from an environment level, how many, what do you currently have now? If you're on-prem moving to Office 365, how many servers do you have? What service applications are you utilizing? All these different things. You need to know what's going on, what integration points there are, to make sure that your next decision going to Office 365, for one, can handle everything that you're currently doing, or if it's changing from one application to the next or whatever, you have a learning curve, or can it go full Office 365, or are you going to have hybrid? So assessing your current environment, the applications that you're utilizing and how they're being utilized are very, very important. The other main thing that you want to find out, just because you have something now and people are readily using it, it may not be covering all the needs that they have. Now, SharePoint probably can do whatever their needs are, but they probably just don't know, or it's always been put on hold for one reason or another. So asking them what their needs is just as important as identifying what they're already using and how they're using it. All right. So next is governance. Now, a lot of people always put governance towards the bottom when it comes to planning, but in reality, governance is one of those things that really should follow the assessment piece, or actually at the same time. And the reason is, as you're gathering all this information, you also need to know what guidelines you have to play in. You don't want to build out an entire environment, set up permissions, only to find out you have some compliance and regulations that you've got to follow. And if you went live with what was built, you would be in violation. So having governance built out, or at least in the process, in the beginning of a project, is very huge. Now, through the years, I've learned that governance seems to be very daunting to a lot of people. I will put it on a statement of work when, I have a client come to me and I say, do you have governance? And they're like, no. I will add it to the statement of work because I know how important it is, and I want to save them money in the long run. So what I've done is, when I supply it to them, if it's a little higher in the budget than what they're looking for and something has to be cut, and I know the first thing that gets cut is governance, because not everybody sees the need. However, it's extremely important, as we know. So what I try to do is a couple different things. If they say no, when I go and we do a kickoff meeting, either remote or on site, I will actually print out or send a link to a templated governance document that I found online that I've used for a really long time. And I'll say, I know we're not doing governance, but please read through this. That way, if something jumps out at you based off of the things in here that, hey, Stacy and her team or whoever really needs to know this information, so that we don't end up having issues or breaking a process that they've done, etc. What I tend to find out is we start getting calls or emails and say, hey, we really need this governance thing, so how can we make it work? So a lot of organizations in IT and just every department, they kind of have this slush fund that they can use every month up to, it varies between companies, but I have some between $1,500 a month and $3,000 a month. So instead of putting governance on a big statement of work with everything else and having to have a capital budget, we do it in pieces a little bit by each month, and they can utilize that slush fund that they have, which works for two reasons. For one, it allows them to get governance that they really need to have, which then saves money in the long run because we don't have to redo anything. But what it also allows and lets them understand is, don't try to tackle governance in one full swoop. Don't say, oh, I'm going to go build our governance plan. If you do that, you may have the first couple of sections that you just knock out of the ballpark, but the longer and longer where you work through something like governance, the more boring, I guess you could say, it gets. Things start to slack and all that kind of stuff. Now, if you have a lot of people on a governance team, you don't have as much of that. But if you take governance and you divide it into small sections, so say you're getting ready to work on new server builds or the migration to Office 365, take that specific topic and hammer through the governance around that area. Get that done, it's ready for that part of the project, and then what's the next piece of the project? And then work on essentially the additional pieces to accommodate that. So as long as the governance piece stays a little bit ahead of the rest of your project, then it becomes very easy and almost a fluid motion. So then by the time you're done with your project, you also have governance that wraps around this entire project that you just did. And then as time goes on with your next project, then continue to take those small, divide it into these small chunks and then grow it organically. There tends to be a lot more success in that way. And also doing it while you're working on a project also brings things to light that maybe you typically wouldn't think about. There are ways as well to how do you capture that information. A common one is people would put it in a document, but the issue I have with that is who's going to go read a 200-300 page governance document, and how can we make it easy for the users to use the information that we're gathering. I tend to I build a lot of governance sites so that I have pages with all the different kind of, I label them with metadata. What topic is it? When does it expire? Alerts get sent out when it's getting ready to expire so they can be reviewed. All of that fun stuff. And it's in SharePoint that is native to the users at this point and organizations. And then it makes it a little bit easier as well to find or utilize that information, because someone types into search, what version of Office do we use? They're going to get results, but have no idea that they're actually getting it from a governance site. Then you can also supply a way for them to provide feedback. If someone happens to see incorrect information, they can supply, hey, I saw that we're on this version, but I know we did an update. You're allowing your users to be interactive with your governance and them really not even know. And by doing it in a site way, then you can also, you don't even have to call it governance. 9 out of 10 times, most governance sites that I build, they tend to call them the center of excellence. So with a site, you can help yourself be a little bit automated with your governance, with alerts and all that stuff, but an easy way for your organization to actually consume the content that you're gathering. All right, does that make sense? Anybody have questions on that? All right.
Was like any questions so far?
Sweet. All right. So the next thing is to do some discovery, right? So, and when I talk about discovery, it's really different than the assessment, because the assessment, you're siloing yourself, getting all this information, providing recommendations. And the discovery is where you're really starting to work with the users and the stakeholders to find out for one, what version are you going to go to now? Or, is it a viable solution to go to Office 365 or to the newer version of on-prem based off of the information that you put into the assessment, and then discussions with the organization. It allows you to figure out what your long-term goals are. A lot of times organizations won't realize they have an idea of what they want as a long-term goal, but until they have the information from the assessment and then talking to other stakeholders and power users or site champions, what I tend to find out is the long-term goals don't necessarily change. They just tend to be tweaked or some additional ones added, because it's hard to identify long-term goal as what's right for the departments. A lot of times when long-term goals are looked at, it's for the organization as a whole. Oops, there we go. And then the other thing is to make sure that when you're gathering this information that you're also having it reviewed. You would probably have a project team, hopefully a stakeholder involved. Of course, they're important to it, but there are going to be pieces on your project that I would suggest that you start getting feedback from your users on as you have the ability. The reason is the sooner that you get your end users involved in any type of a project is essentially the jump start to your user adoption. If you don't get the users involved until the week that you're rolling out, and literally that feedback is, hey, this doesn't work and that doesn't work, it's a little too late, because at that point you're causing frustration for the users. They feel like it's more pushed on them instead of them being involved in the process. So when you're doing the discovery, and gathering this information, the more that you can involve your end users, the better it is. I know that everybody has had difficulties getting stakeholders involved in various projects. I know, through my years and years, I've had massive struggles. What I've learned is if you can approach your stakeholder and I'll let them know that just because you want them to kind of put their name to a project doesn't mean that they really have to do any work. So there's some conversations that I've had with stakeholders. Their feedback is, I barely have time to do the job that I have, let alone, be the person that's backing a project and have to know all about it and all that kind of stuff. So some of the things that I like to do for that is if I'm having scheduled discovery sessions on site with the different departments, I will ask a stakeholder if you can just pop in like 2 seconds before or at the end and just say, thank you guys for attending and supplying information. It's all I need from you. Email notifications where you're sending out emails letting people know about a new policy or procedure or changes that are going on doesn't mean that that stakeholder is the one that has to write that. Project manager or their administrative assistant, whoever, can write out this email and then literally have the administrative assistant, after it's reviewed, copy and paste and send it out underneath their email account. So it's, the stakeholder really doesn't have to do a whole lot. You can make their impact very minor to the project from their side of it, but having that name and information come from that stakeholder to the users lets them know that the company is behind this and that essentially, you guys mean business on the project. So stakeholders like that, like that process. It makes things a lot smoother from your project team. And then the end users tend to respect a little bit more that, management's getting involved and standing with it. All right. The next thing is once you have all this information, you want to document out what your requirements are, what your goals are, and I'm talking short-term, mid-term, and long-term goals, and then make sure they're in alignment with the overall organizational goals or other projects that might be in the works, especially when you're talking like Office 365. You're talking about migration of SharePoint up there. Well, what about Exchange, right? I don't know if you're aware, but if you have SharePoint in one type of an environment, so if SharePoint's on-prem and Exchange is in the cloud, there are things that users tend to use every single day, connecting SharePoint lists and whatnot into their Outlook. There's a lot of features that don't work if they're not in the same type of environment. So understanding the goals of other applications that could have an impact is just as important as knowing, the goals of the project you're working on yourself. It also allows you to build a roadmap of where you are, where you want to be based off of your goals, and then essentially how you're going to get there. To me, a roadmap is a living, breathing document, kind of like governance, and it's more that way now, especially if you're in the cloud, because it changes every 2 weeks. Nate and I just spent a week up in Redmond not long ago, and I don't know about him, but I know based off of each session I went to every single day, I came back and wrote notes and say, my goal for this has to change because now I want to go this new feature because it makes more sense for the organization. So it's ever changing. So your roadmap is going to change. Doesn't mean it's drastic, but it could detour due to new functionality or deprecating functionality that's coming out. Right? And then identifying the needs and wants of the organization. A lot of times people say, I really want this. I know it's not overall, is it going to make a huge impact to my job, but it's something that would be really nice to have. A lot of times what I find out, the main ones that people will come back is all about reporting or dashboards, which typically to me, that's not really so much as a want as it's a need. A lot of organizations, or I should just say everybody in the world, you've heard numerous times where executives only like the pretty pictures. You know, I know that, you know, that is true. Executives do like pretty pictures, but so does everybody else. And if you can accomplish a bunch of goals and, you know, making it easier for users to get their information in a visual representation, to me, that's a need, because user adoption increases with more visualization that you have in your environment. All right. So once you have all of these different things done in the process and working, make sure you're reviewing it, reviewing all the bits and pieces with your team. You know, get their feedback. Let them know that you're listening to them by implementing the feedback. Doesn't mean that you're going to take, you know, everybody's ideas and bring them all in, but you have to make sure that the feedback that you are receiving, let them know that you are acknowledging it and you guys are trying to implement it as you go forward. And then as the entire team gets essentially on the same page, and have your own project team sign off. You know, we all agree to this, you know, the stakeholders aware, the team's aware, and then once that's identified, then you can really start marketing things out to the actual end users and start getting that early user adoption going. All right, any questions? Nope. All right, so I cover a lot of information based on the slide. I do break it out a little bit, so I'll hit some of the next slides kind of high level. But you have, and I will provide these slides to Nate so that if anybody would like them. So for the planning piece, like I said, you know, make sure you're having your discovery. You want to make sure that you're building out a timeline. Timelines are also very much living and breathing, because depending on you know, something that comes up with another project, or you know, with the consulting company, or you know, whatever tools that you need, those things can be they can get thrown off. The one thing I always try to tell everybody when building out a timeline, please make sure that you're putting enough cushion in there so that you're not having to change the timeline, say every day or every week. Any project, if someone says, I'm going to estimate 40 hours for this project, and say, all right, but does that mean someone is going to be heads down for 8 hours a day for 5 days? You know, what if they, you know, they get sick or they have a headache one day and they want to take a nap? So that doesn't mean that, you know, they're going to get it done in 5 days just because that's what it equals. You have to accommodate for the unexpected. So if you give yourself, you know, a couple extra cushion days or whatever, it is absolutely fine to deliver under time, and it makes a better impact to the users. Like, oh, they finished early, much better than delivering it late only because someone needed to take a half day off or for a doctor's appointment or whatever. So make sure you have some cushion. Timeline can be flexible, but the least amount of changes that you make, then people realize, okay, they're staying on schedule, or they're delivering their tasks, you know, before they're actually due. Much better, you know, look at it than being late. Make sure you have a project plan. When you have a project plan, it identifies better what actually needs to be done and who needs to be involved. And then the great thing is, these are the things that you turn around and use as project communication, not only to your team, but your users. Hey, this is our plan. Here's where we're at. Now, does it mean you have to show them all of the grave details around it? Absolutely not. But it's something that you can start sharing with the users so that they feel like they're included. All right. The other key thing about communication is not everybody communicates in the same way. Me personally, I'd rather not talk on the phone if I, you know, don't have to. I talk on the phone every day, you know, in meetings. I had 12 meetings today. So if no one calls me the rest of the day, I call that a win. But I'm much more likely to email or text just because I can multitask much easier that way. Depending if you're dealing with a millennial or someone that's been, in the workforce for 40, 50 years, some people really like that one-on-one, schedule a meeting and let's sit down and talk or go to lunch. And you got email, phone, all that kind of stuff. I don't know about you, but I receive hundreds of emails a day. And if someone needs something really urgent, or if there's something that I want to make sure everybody sees this email that I've sent out, I need to make sure that I'm capturing their attention in some way to do that, and it not be the only way to get that information out there. When you talk about communication around a project, there really should be a communication plan, right? So you're going to send out an email to the organization, but hey, we're going to use this for marketing and stuff as well. Let's post something on the board or onto the intranet. Find ways to make sure that this information is getting out there, right? Which then brings us to marketing. The one thing that I always talk about is users love visualizations. They like to know what's going on. They want to feel included. In this instance, I'm kind of referencing if you're building a new intranet, a lot of times you'll get mock-ups, right? You're gonna get mock-ups on the new look and feel. You can do surveys, polls, and have people vote. Do they like it? What changes? All that type of stuff. This is your first step as well for initial communication around that. Your intranet is essentially the hub of your environment. It's that place where it's essentially the focal point. They're going to go there for all their forms. If they need a vacation day, they need to do their expenses. They need to get to their, their team site, all that kind of stuff. This is a place that they can go. So that's one of the big things that you want to socialize as much as possible, right? So the more that you can say, hey, this is what we're going to go to, and they keep seeing it, then the anticipation grows. You're getting them involved, they're getting excited, they want to see how this new stuff works. So the more you can show them, I would definitely do it. The other thing is when you have a marketing department, and it's one of my favorite departments because they can be your best friend and really help you make your project a success. In my eyes, a project is not a success if it comes in on time and under budget. That's a bonus, but what's more important is when you're done with a project, are people using it? If they're not using it, it doesn't matter that it came in under budget or under time, it was not successful. A project is only a success if people are utilizing it. And marketing is that area that can help you do that. They can, do the little boards. They can help you do like pre-launch days so people can go and actually play on the internet. But marketing is really good at marketing, right? The one thing you have to keep in mind when you're at an organization that you're getting ready to change the actual culture of that, marketing could be somewhat in a box. They could be stuck in the culture of the company, especially if they've been at the company for a very long time. What I suggest is bringing in an outside marketing consultant to spend a day with your organization, see what your current culture is, what your plans are, and get a fresh perspective. There are a lot of marketing people out there that do this. I mean, that's their job. And you will find that, especially when you're trying to change company culture, this is that way to do it. You're getting an outside person looking in and giving you just all these ideas that you would have never thought of, just because a lot of times marketing departments will also say, hey, here's what we do when we go to market a new application. Well, that probably worked well for the first 4 or 5 times, but things change and you got to kind of keep up with those. So fresh perspectives are great. Marketing is that place that's going to help you build your early user adoption. I have a organization, just an example where marketing got involved. I was super excited about it because this one lady was very, very excited about it. She didn't know a lot about SharePoint getting started, but because she was on the team from the marketing side of it, at the end of the project, she ended up being a site champion and actually built a flow all by herself. She got excited through the project. She wanted to learn more. And by the time everything was said and done, she was someone I would call a site champion now. And she's built the excitement. Well, she's sharing that excitement with everybody, and she's in the perfect role within the organization to do that. Right? Any questions there? All right. So
Yep,
quick
no
wins.
questions so far.
Okay, thank you, Nate. So quick wins are something that I really love. I've talked about them for years. And what a quick win is something that is very easy to do. You know, step 1, 2, 3, something that, you know, an hour, 2 hours or less, something that costs very little money, something you can build in 2 hours and under. Of course, it should have a low cost. But the main thing that you want to find when you're or want to accomplish when you find a quick win is you want to make a huge impact, right? So a quick win may be something you don't want it to only make 5 people happy, right? So if you have a company of 3,000 and you're building something that only affects 5 people, it's not what I would consider a quick win. Maybe for that department, but overall, you're not hitting the right amount of people that you want to get them excited about your project. So some examples of some quick wins, corporate directory, everybody uses it, right? Birthday, team web parts. People love to share in with people's birthdays and anniversaries and wish them a happy birthday. Knowledge bases, document sets, search web parts. You've got promoted links, global navigation, and of course, process automation, expenses, vacation, all that kind of stuff. If you have a process within your organization that everybody uses pretty much on a regular basis, I would key in on it as a quick win and see how, see what it's going to take to get into SharePoint and automate the process and all of that as part of your project. The thing that happens with quick wins is as soon as people start seeing these things that got done very, very quickly, they start saying, well, if you can do that here, or I saw this in the corporate directory, or I saw this in, in this process that you guys did for form and workflows, can we do that same type of thing with this, right? The downside to quick wins is you show them all this cool stuff, they want more cool stuff, and then turns out that your list, your support list and projects tend to grow really fast. And then that's when you just have to learn, the whole priority and all that kind of stuff. But quick wins are very, very powerful. It really gets people involved and they get excited very quickly. All right, you also have user profiles. So user profile, in Office 365, it's, utilizing Delve, of course, and then, profiles and on-prem. It allows your users to be self-service. Now, you can make them moderately self-service, 100% self-service, etc., by identifying which fields you want them to update versus which fields automatically come from, say, Active Directory or an HR system, etc., right? It also allows you to determine, which one of the pieces that I like is who's who when I'm trying to prepare for a meeting. Any organization where I've implemented a corporate directory or whatever, if I'm there on site and I'm preparing for a meeting with maybe a department I've never had interaction with, what I always try to do is I go out to the corporate directory, I pull up their names, and then I have a visualization. But in addition, I have information that they've entered into their About Me. I know their skill sets, projects they've worked on, etc., which then gives me kind of that leg up. If I'm on my way to the meeting and I happen to stop by the restrooms and maybe someone's in there that I'm getting ready to meet with. I know everybody's kind of had that, had that happen at some point in their life. wouldn't it be nice to know a little bit about that person so you can strike up a conversation? By striking up conversations like that, you start to interact with the users on a personal level. That way, when you go into meetings and you're working on these projects, it's not just all about hardcore business and in that line. Knowing more information about each other and being able to say, you know, hey, how was your son's baseball game yesterday and all that kind of stuff, allows the stress level of projects to come down a little bit, and also kind of opens them up for more conversation. You know, they feel more comfortable providing, you know, information and feedback, etc. It's also a great way, well, you build your corporate directory off of user profiles, but it's a great way to find information. Like I mentioned about projects, if you want to know who worked on what project, you know, to ask them a question or to find out who is the team to reuse, you can enter information very quickly into search and come back and pull back people based off of the project, skill sets, etc. It also helps build company bonding. Favorite story from a contracting company that I've done some work with is they wanted area, you know, with, you know, people's hobbies, which is out there and all that kind of stuff. And a gentleman, I was on site and he came up to me and he's like, hey, I really like the, you know, user profiles. I typed in softball, you know, towards the beginning of spring, and I got 12 people that popped up. So I sent them an email, asked they wanted to do you know, join a softball league. They did, they won. So then someone from corporate communications took a picture of the team with their trophy, which they displayed when you walked into their office. But it got put onto their intranet site and shared with the entire organization. So these 12 people, only 2 of them actually knew of the other, but now there's 12 different people that now they know, you know, 11 other people, and they did something fun like a softball team. And they did it all just by a simple search in SharePoint using user profiles, right? There's integration to other systems. I'm a firm believer of not typing in information more than once if I don't absolutely have to. If you have an HR system, you can incorporate that in to SharePoint and pool some of the fields into it automatically, so that you know when HR enters it in, it automatically gets into there, and a lot less opportunity for human error, etc. The best part about user profiles is it's customizable to suit your needs. You know, same construction company wanted an option to choose organizations that people could be a part of, so that if someone did a search, say for Big Brothers Big Sisters, it would come back with people that are, you know, are involved with it, and then they can reach out to them. So that was something that was very, you know, important for them. But you could add, you know, if you had different, if you want to add client lists or whatever, who's assigned to what clients, you could put those types of things as a field inside of someone's user profile, and then you have this additional information that you can search upon within your organization. So that's one of my favorite things that I like about it. New site setup. You know, one thing that Microsoft did, they did a great job of providing some templates so that people could get started. But the thing that Microsoft also did not very well was provide us a template in hopes that it could help people get started. Their template is not exactly fully baked for someone just to be able to, hey, here's your new site, and they can go and start doing their job. It's just not that, it's not that well baked when you receive it. The things that you want to make sure that you do or have is that people can immediately start using their sites. It's consistent from one site to the next. Making sure that it's easy. My biggest thing is, you know, limit the amount of non-best practices that are going on. You know, don't develop everything. SharePoint can do any task that you come up with, if something you want. I could probably tell you that 3/4 of it is out of the box, and 1/4 of it might need, development at some level. But a lot of the things, regardless what people want to do, it's already there. You just have to add on to it. So the foundation's there for you to get started. And then, of course, if you have a nice site that you can start with immediate utilization, then users instantly start utilizing it, so user adoption grows. However, you do have, people that go rogue, right? So how do you also prevent that? Here's the default out-of-the-box site, which I'm sure all of you have seen. The funniest thing about it is I always tend to ask in my sessions how many people are utilizing promoted links, and I may get 3 or 4 hands, and then I'll say, how many of you know what a promoted link is? And then I might get like 6 hands. So a large amount of people not knowing really what promoted links are and claim that they've never seen promoted links. However, when I ask them if they've seen this before, everybody in the entire room says yes, right? And the reason is because Microsoft provides you a template to get you started somewhat, but their main goal for this template is to say, hey, here's some things that are available. So if you look here, they're showing you promoted links and saying, hey, you've got these new promoted links that you can use. Here's a way how you can share your site. Hey, you have a task list. Here's how you can start working on that. They're showing you that, hey, we've got news feeds, and hey, you have a document library. My rule of thumb that I tell clients is they provide you a document library called documents. What that alludes to is people not knowingly going rogue and dumping all of their documents in there because it says, hey, this is where your documents go. To where in reality, it's an example of saying, oh, I can create document libraries for my content, right? Because the document library is your top level folder structure, if you think about it in that terms. So the naming of that should be in conjunction with what content is going inside of it, okay? So if you have immediate utilization of your sites, they're essentially a foundation for your users to start with. It allows you to establish a go live, right? This is where, marketing comes in, because marketing can then make this marketable. If you can establish a go live, everybody has the same type of foundation site that they're starting with. It, instant user adoption allows you to build out a site roadmap. Hey, this is, we know that things are going more towards modern as more and more stuff comes out. Hey, we're in classic sites now. Here's our roadmap on how we want to get to modern. Here's the things that have to happen, right? And everybody's would follow in alignment because everybody's sites foundation-wise started in the same place. The only reason they're different from department to department is any things that are pertinent or specific to those departments. It allows you to build consistent training so they can go from one department to the next, and they don't have to learn the actual site itself, just anything that's just related to whatever department they move to. Everything else is going to work and look pretty much the same as any other site. It allows you to set yourself up for success by building this foundation starting point, because then you can start thinking about the things like process improvement and automation. And by giving them something to start with, they're immediately learning how it works instead of struggling to figure out how do I add a calendar, right? So you're giving them that big jump start to the next area. This is an example of, just a templated site, literally right out of, just a template that was created, saved, and reused. And all the other sites would look identically the same, and then you would just adjust them per department, what is relevant to them. All right, any questions? Good.
I like the look of that site, but yeah, no questions.
Yeah, isn't that nice? Isn't that nice? All right, so here's just some examples of just with, making sure things that flow. Here's an example of an intranet site. You notice the black, the blue, all that kind of stuff, global navigation at the top. And then when you go to the team site in the same environment, notice the branding flows over to it, the navigation flows, etc. So you're building that consistency throughout your entire farm and not having one site that is one color and another site that is something else, right? So the more that it flows, the easier it is for your users, to learn, and less stress on them feeling like they're lost, the better user adoption is going to be. You want to make sure, as I said, it's easy, keep it simple. Custom development, there's a time and a place for it. Training, easy to access. You're able to make it repeatable, and updating it when there is features and functionality changes, easy enough to update it without having to rebuild your entire training agenda. I know we talked about promoted links. Promoted links is one of those, those visual representations of navigation. It's also an instant user adoption builder, and it's all 100% out of the box. If the percentage of pictures versus a text link, if you think about the links list in SharePoint versus what you see here as a promoted link, if you put them right next to each other on a page and then actually track it, the percentage that you see on average that I've been given is 98.5% of the time users will select the picture over the text. So just knowing that tells me the more you can have visualizations within your site without overdoing it, your users are going to be able to use it a lot more readily. They can see visual representations a lot easier than they're going to on text, especially since text is very small. It may mix in or kind of be blurred into the site and is not as visual. So if you have the opportunity and it fits, promoted links are perfect. One thing to keep in mind, promoted links by default, when you add the web part, the promoted link it's a decent size, and you can build nice little dashboards using promoted links, but with the size, it could be a little overwhelming. By adding just a little pieces of jQuery, you can resize the promoted links down to the smaller. You can say you want three rows with 3 columns. You can really organize it, however you'd like to suit the site you're working on. One of the other quick wins I mentioned was the corporate directory. You can literally build an out-of-the-box corporate directory in SharePoint in under 10 minutes. That was actually my goal when I originally did it. When I found out that I could do it out of the box, I'm like, if I can do this in under 10 minutes, I'm going to blog about it. I was able to do it. However, this is what it looks like. It just kind of tells you your name, what department you're in, your title. So you don't get a lot of information, right? Straight out of the box. So of course, you give them a little bit, they always want more. And then by just adjusting a small display template, you can give them things like an extension, their mobile number, their email address, all that kind of stuff. However, again, just because you give them a little bit more, they're always going to ask for a little bit more. You can put a little bit of styling to it and get something nice like this. It's a huge user adoption builder within your organization, because not only are they getting the information that they need, it also looks nice. Hold on one second. I have a dog all of a sudden that found a squeaky. Hold on.
Hey, Stacy.
Yes.
Hey, Christopher's watching and is wondering, is promoted links coming out of favor with the hero page links?
I'm sorry, can you say that again?
Oh, sorry, Christopher's wondering, is promoted links coming out of favor with the hero page links?
The hero page links?
Yeah, the hero web part.
Are you referring into the modern?
Yes, probably.
Yeah, so the thing with promoted links when you start working in Modern is you can create your promoted links list and everything, but the actual Modern homepage, whether it's a team site, communication sites, etc., it doesn't allow you to actually add that web part to the homepage because of the quick links. However, if you have one of the pages underneath it, one of the web part pages or whatever, you can drop them into there. Based off of conversations that I've had, there have been a lot of pushback of the fact that people, they liked the promoted links. They made it part of their, how they, set up some of their page navigations and stuff like that, that they are looking to allow promoted link web parts on the actual Modern pages themselves. But right now, they're not visible if you create one. Does that answer the question?
Thank you.
Okay, perfect. All right. All right, the key to project success, like I said a little bit ago, is really around if the users are using it and you're being successful, you're being able to distribute your goals, what your vision is, being flexible and just getting your users involved. That's the key to your success to your users. The Force Awakens, right? So is more around the user adoption. Again, just getting them involved from the beginning, making sure that they know you're listening and implementing the feedback. One of the things that I always like to do or help organizations with is if they say they get this a list of feedback where you can submit it on the site, and if they implement some of that feedback is in one of their communications that they send out either weekly or monthly around the project, they say based off of feedback, we have implemented these things. That doesn't mean that you have to call out a person individually or anything like that, but just by making that blatant statement in the email, hey, because of your feedback, we have done this. And you'll notice a huge change in how the users interpret change within the organization. They feel like they're a part of it and not, it being pushed at them like they have no choice, right? This is also any project, I think, communication. I don't think that there is the ability to over communicate in any kind of a project. The more you communicate, the more people tend to get involved and provide feedback. Training, make sure it's reoccurring. There's always job, turnover, job change, new features and functionality. There's great built-in, there's third-party tools that you can build in, like Content Panda. But if you, I love to utilize Stream for training now, do the 10 to 5 minute little video snippets, how to do X, and then have a nice little, channel training page with all these different things. By doing all these things that we've talked about and having these plans and everybody kind of starting out in the same place allows you to be a lot more powerful around your training and making them reusable. Internal user groups, doing a lot of brown bag lunches, or your local community user groups. I have organizations that have user groups within their company once a month. What I find out from the user groups that are internal or the brown bag lunches that they have is one thing you start to notice is that your users are training other users. They've figured something out and they're sharing their knowledge. The more that, the more that you can get them involved, the more that they help spread and train for you. And you'll also notice that support doesn't get some of those low-end questions anymore on how do I, because the users, because they're learning from each other, a lot of times they'll tend to ask other users before they'll go to support. So overall, it actually really changes how the culture of all of it. Creating a knowledge base, and you can link it to your home page, all that kind of stuff. Make sure that you have the what's next roadmap. But the most importantly is to make sure that you're looking at some type of analytics for especially your intranet. when you build out your intranet, you identify the things that you want to put out there to make sure that users are getting, right? So, but what you want to do is actually make sure that you're going out there after a couple months and find out, well, are the users utilizing all these, different areas on the intranet? If you find out that there's a web part that hasn't been touched the entire time that it has been existed out there, but users are always, searching for X or going to this one location, like every time right off the internet, well, let's swap out that web part for something that we know they're utilizing. So analytics is big in keeping up with, identifying what your users are using and make it easy for them to get to it. All right. We'll see if you guys can guess what I kind of call our own personal insanity of doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results. Anybody got a guess? Governance, right? As we know, governance is the building blocks or of policies and procedures of your organization. It's how your organization works. And you got to know how your organization works so that as you're building things that you're compliant with your organization and you're building things just by, naturally the way that they're supposed to be so that you guys stay out of trouble, your organization stays out of trouble, etc. Again, you have to express the importance for management, why it's needed, what can happen if you don't have governance versus governance. There are a lot of examples out there on the internet in regards to this, showing return on investment. There are real life examples out there. One of in how to determine ROI in a lot of cases in SharePoint, if you take a process or how you stay a process around compliancy or whatever, and someone says, yeah, this takes 80 hours a month because we have to do this, this, and this. Well, if we automate that process, and now the process takes literally an hour a month because you fill it in, it goes one person, they approve, next person, you just saved 79 hours a month times 12 months. You just saved the company that amount of money that year for one process by automating one process. You can find those types of things within your organization all over the place. If you work or some IT people know the processes that are already out there, but otherwise it's a quick discovery session with some of your departments to find things like that to show the return on investment. Explain to management or show management, what's going to happen if you're involved versus if you're not involved. And a lot of times that goes to one simple statement. If you're involved and you can give us 2 minutes here and there, it means a world to to the organization because they feel like management is behind this and it's just not IT or whatever department forcing something new down our throats, that it's really an initiative through the overall organization, and then they feel like all right, so this is something that's real, it's being backed, and we're going to be a part of it. Seeing is believing. Don't ever hesitate to throw together a quick demo to show how it's going to work within your organization with your content. Management really digs that, and they really they embrace it, right? Because they're like, okay, now I see how that works. A lot of times just telling somebody, oh yes, it'll work and this is kind of how it will, they're like, okay, well, you're saying that, but I just don't know really. So just do a quick little demo. It goes a long way. Areas of governance, these are the hierarching areas: architecture, content management, compliance, information architecture, training, etc. All companies are different. There are no two identically the same. These are the high-level ones that I utilize, or I start out with all of the governance projects that I work on. However, there are times where I have to add or remove based off of the organization. So these are the areas. And then you have features and functionality. Some of these are, Office 365 or on-prem or both. but I'm not going to read through the whole list, but you can see that there's quite a bit there. There's another long list. So essentially, if you get it, everything needs some type of governance around it, even if it is clearly just that one statement in there. It says applications not utilizing, and then going through, if you're in Office 365, hey, we're not going to use Stream, we're not going to use this, we're not going to use that. It's just identifying what you're using and what you're not using. It just needs to be documented somewhere, so that if something comes down and someone goes, oh, well, we own Stream, why aren't we using that? You can refer to the governance and identify why the organization has chosen not to use that application. So at any level on certain things, you have to have something about it. By not mentioning it at all, then leaves, people are more free to say, well, I'm not finding anything on it, so I'm just going to use it. Or I'm going to go buy this tool because I can't find what we're using for this. We don't own a tool that already does this because I can't find it, right? So I call constant change in Office 365 the phantom menace. One day something will work, the next day it won't, or I have a new feature, function, all this kind of fun stuff. I find it exciting because I never know from one day to the next what I'm going to get sometimes. I can probably speak for myself and Nate when we do events like this and we have demos or whatever. We prepare the night before to check. We prepare 2 weeks prior to, but we still check the day of, because literally we could get a change the day of. So that's a great thing and a bad thing. Well, it's hard to stay prepared and up to date all the time with all the new functionality. But on the other hand, hey, we're getting new functionality or features and all this stuff all the time. So I have a love-hate relationship with it, and I think most others do as well. So of course, with Office 365, code changes weekly. It's not always fully baked. They put things out there to get our feedback on them, which I think is great to a point, but that's also what first release is for. I don't really want to see that stuff in production. That's my personal opinion. There's a ton of site types. What do you use? So much functionality. What do I need? New features and functionality. Here today, gone tomorrow. Something, I don't know about how much everybody's worked in Office 365, but when you have teams, and then all that other thing, that apps teams, things start to get confusing, especially when you start talking between groups and teams. So things aren't all there yet. Functionality and stuff is amazing, but there's still things that have to be organized and cleaned up. And if we can identify in governance what some of that stuff is, or we're not going to use this until it is fully baked, just by stating it goes a long way. It's avoiding those types of things is where the users start to get frustrated and all of that. Ongoing support, hold on. Sorry, I got a dog, hold on one sec. All right, sorry about that. Ongoing support, with your knowledge bases, they're searchable, you can automate them, you can link throughout your organization. Governance site or center of excellence, never reinvent the wheel. I can tell you right now, if it comes to queries or anything out there, there are so many people that provide blogs. Microsoft provides a ton of content. Always go look first, because you can probably save a lot of time when it comes to scripts and all that kind of stuff. Just content for governance in itself. Auditing, make sure you're doing quarterly, monthly, yearly, whatever you guys have to uphold to. Make sure you're splitting the responsibility. Governance is not something that one or two people can do unless it's a really small organization. However many people are on your governance team really depends on how big your organization is. There are third-party utilities out there that can help you. AdPoints has one, ShareGate has one. There's a few others out there. So there's a lot of things that can help you do this to kind of stay on top of it. The one thing I do like in Office 365 in the new admin panel, they're doing a lot more with reporting and analytics of the content and sites out there, and allowing you to, do an action on those. So like if you have, you can easily pull a list of inactive sites and you can instantly, delete them or whatever you need to do with them. So allowing them to be actionable, which I find is really great. I lost mine. Here's an example of a Center of Excellence site / governance site. Like I said, it's page-based off of the promoted links. I can, who's assigned to it for review. I can set expiration dates. You get alerts. You can put announcements and all this stuff. I essentially look at the governance site as the home base for the governance team. But on the back end, if you think about it, users are going to search, what is, our maintenance window, or what version of Office do we use, or whatever. They're going to search for that. It's going to come back to the information in the site, but a lot of times the users won't actually go out here themselves, but they're consuming the content that's inside of it. So it's making it a part of their normal day-to-day stuff. Okay. All right, if something is too good to be true, something sounds too good to be true, it probably is. With that, all I can say is make sure that you're preparing for the future. When you're setting your plans of where you're going, whether it's migration or you're just now implementing SharePoint or whatever, you've got to make sure that you're setting yourself up for the future so that you can prepare for it accordingly. Because always having to take a step back and redo work. I just try to make sure that clients can continue moving forward instead of moving backward, and that's what the future is all about. So if we follow some of these guidelines and things that I've stated in here, they hopefully will help you do that so that you guys continue to be successful as the years go on. Great. Any questions?
It doesn't look like it. Thank you so much, Stacy, for sharing your experience and knowledge with us. A lot of really valuable stuff in there.
Oh, you're very welcome. You're very welcome. And Nate, I will share this with you and you can share it out if you'd like.
Yep, everyone who registered for the webinar will get a recording, and then I'll make sure we include those slides in a follow-up email.
All right. Thank you guys very much. I appreciate it.
Yep. Have a good night, and thank you everyone for joining.
Thank you. Bye.